So I was looking at the Algebra 1, this is Algebra 1 section 1.1 in our book that we use is variables and expressions. So the first part that I wrote on the board is definitions. Variables means symbols to represent unknown values. So basically any letter that you're going to see in mathematics. For the most part, in Algebra 1 especially, it'll mostly just be a letter. So X, Y, B, W, you can use A, B, C, D, it doesn't matter. It's going to be a letter though, it's an unknown value, so we don't know it. An example would be like 2x plus 4, and then like 5a times y. The x is a variable, the a and the y are both variables, right? But they're different, okay? They're unknown, and so we call them variables. With that, I'll call, this is a term, so if this is just 2x, so I just take 2x. That's called a variable term, because it has a variable part of the number. This 4 I put is a constant term. It means there's no variable to it, so it's never going to change. It will always be 4. Another definition I have up here is powers. That's going to be like where x to the n, that's how it's said, x to the nth power. X, this is your base number, okay? And then this n is your exponent, so usually that means multiplication. We'll be multiplying out like so. So it would be x times x times x, and so forth until we get to the n power. That's basically how exponents will work. The other key concepts from this chapter is translating verbal to algebraic expressions. This is one of the most difficult parts of, I would say, math. One of the most difficult parts to begin with is understanding how that concept works. So, a few terms to look forward to. So if we're going to say addition, I'm going to go straight from the book. If we're going to say, well, we're going to say the operations addition. Words we need to look for. Okay, so this is your words to look for. Oh, we should put over here words to look for. All right, we're going to have more than. We'll have some. Plus. Increased by. And then added to. If we want to say subtraction, okay? It's going to be less than. Subtracted from. Difference. Decreased by and then minus. We're going to say multiplication. We're going to say product of. We'll say multiplied by. Times. That's for multiplication. Division is going to be quotient of. Division. Quotient of. And then divided by. But we'll do some examples. So if you need to pause it to write these down, I would do that. But this idea of saying, using words to get from words to algebraic expressions with terms is very common. It comes up in Algebra 1. It actually comes up in geometry, Algebra 2, and even pretty complicated for students who get that far. So and in calculus. It comes up a lot of times. So making sure students understand how these work and relating them to the math will actually help them out extremely. So let me do a couple examples. So if you need to write these down again, go ahead and pause real quick because I'm going to erase it. And I'm going to do some examples with you guys. So. Okay, so continuing section 11.1, I got some examples, 4 examples. Let me start off. These are examples straight from the book, so I'm going to use the numbers straight from the book, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So if you were following in our class and you had a book, or so forth. The first one says, what we want to do is just write it in terms of algebraic terms. So the sum of a number and 14. See, we see this word sum, so that's going to mean addition. A number, we don't know what that number is, so that's a variable. And we have 14, so that's a constant. So basically this turns into, we're going to say n plus 14. So again, n is a variable, we don't know what it is, but we know 14 is a constant. So if you see the word sum, that's how I got the addition. Okay. The next one, 6 less a number t. So we have, again, one number, and we have our variable t this time. It actually tells us what to use as a variable, but this is the key word right here is less. Okay, since that's the key word, we're going to say, well, that's 6 less than t. Okay, so because it's less than, 6 is less than t. Now, if I move on to 6, I have a couple terms which is a little bit different. I have more than and then times. So it says 7 is more than 11 times a number. All right, a number, again, it's a variable. We don't know what it is, but it's a number. So we're going to say, well, it's 11 times a number, so that's going to be 11 times n plus, because it's more than, right? 7 more than 11 times a number, that's going to be, so we add a 7 there. All right. The last one, again, it's a duplicate. We have a minus, we say minus and quotient of, okay? So we have 1 minus the quotient of our 7. This one we did adding, it doesn't really matter in terms of which way we do this, but for this one we say 1, because that's what we have, minus the quotient of r and 7. So when we do r and 7, we're going to say r over 7. Your first number over your second number. Again, r is your variable, and you end up with that. So again, section 1.1 is just about variables and expressions, getting used to writing expressions in terms of variables and variables in terms of saying them in terms of English. It's not about solving them yet, but it's just about writing them. This is a very important concept for students to get down because it comes up later in all their math classes. So hope that helps.